provide here for you. And when I mention the distinguished panel experts, I think maybe I'm understating it a little bit, right? Let me just take the opportunity to introduce them all firstly, right? We have Bernie Trudeau, who is the data center CTO from Cisco Systems. He's also the chairman of the Asia Cloud Computing Association. Then next, I'm pleased to introduce Mahesh Jaishankar, who is the VP for Data Meter and Broadcast at the Telco DU. Right? This is a UAE integrated telecom service provider. And next, we have Karthikeyan Rajashekaran, who is the head of Cloud Platform Channels APAC at Google. And he's also from the Google for Work team and helps enterprises run their analytics on the Google Cloud. Eric Hanselman is the chief analyst at 451 Research. Right, you heard from his colleague earlier today. He coordinates industry analysis across the broad portfolio of 451 research disciplines. Alex Cheng, CTO, IT, Data Center and Cloud Solution Sales, Global Solutions Elite Team from Huawei. And we have Jerry Chong, finally. He is the country manager for Singapore for CD Networks. And he is also the head of sales for Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Right. So in order to kickstart the day, I'm also like on behalf of the panel to ask for a quick poll as well. They have actually requested to understand some of the objectives, the motivations, right, and key points of the audience. And you could just cooperate with me and help me understand a little bit, right? How many of you are actually looking to migrate workloads into the cloud, or could you give our panel some visibility on that? Migrating of workloads to the cloud. Right, so it looks like some of the cloud providers here is going to be like really worried, right, about the forecast for next year. But nevertheless, I'm sure the market is vibrant in that respect, right? Yeah. We do know that cloud adoption has grown by leaps and bounds over the years. And as part of a mini study prior to this panel, I think we circulated a document on interoperability and portability, right, of cloud infrastructure. This was dated, and I don't know whether you guys see this as part of the joke or not, right? And this was dated, the document, for those who read it, is dated 2011. Some of the concepts, right, mentioned in the paper makes a lot of sense. And we had since 2011 till now, right, to achieve this goal of interoperability between cloud platforms. Some say that we've achieved that objective today in 2016. And in the pre-discussion prior to this panel, some said that it is nirvana, which is still unattainable. So this is probably one of the contention points we would like to open up today's panel with, right? So interoperability and portability of cloud infrastructure. Fact or fiction? Nirvana or we've attained, or is it something that we already attained, right? Perhaps I'd like to open up this discussion with Bernie because he had a very good opinion on this earlier on.
Yeah, Bernie Trudeau from Cisco. And yeah, certainly I was the one that said that it's been the nirvana for IT for the last 50 years, right? How do you port applications from one IT system to another, or in this case, we're talking about one cloud to another. And I think a lot of work, a lot has been achieved in the last few years in moving from one cloud to another. I can think of one of our customers, a charity who is looking at using cloud from a seasonality perspective. So they want to stay on-prem with their steady-state applications, and for most of the year. But there's two parts of the year where their business grows considerably, and so they've moved the front end of of some of their applications on cloud during that time. And so moving between clouds was part of their mandate, so that they'd be able to go from, take advantage of either pricing promotions or service levels from one cloud provider to another. And so using a Cisco product called Intercloud Fabric, they were actually able to move workloads and translate between different types of virtual machine formats in moving applications from one cloud to another. It's not something that they do instantly, but it's something that can be done, and they can make an informed choice of when to move applications or move workloads from one cloud to another, or even back on premise.
I actually think that Maury's done us a nice job with our preceding speaker. Ryan basically was saying, hey, it's all solved. So you've got Intercloud, you just stuff everything in Salt Stack, and you deploy it to as many clouds as you want, right? Easy done, right Nirvana. All right. From the analyst side, we've got some data that, I know people are reluctant to stick their hands up, but that at least 70 of you are running multiple clouds, 70% of you are running multiple clouds. Ryan had some numbers up there about that. We actually identify that that's even a little longer if you extend that to large enterprise. So you're already dealing with this in some form or fashion, but that question is, what's the extent to which you've got the ability to deploy to any cloud you want for a particular workload? That Nirvana, I think, that Ryan's going to talk to. And that's a much more difficult task. Being able to use something like Intercloud, to be able to target different clouds, from what we see in our research, so far is the exception rather than the norm. It's something where you're deploying specific applications to specific clouds, probably have relationships with particular partners who only support different cloud environments, and that can be a much bigger challenge to overcome in making that transition. And in many cases, it's simply the form in which you're deploying that's the bigger stumbling block in terms of what you're actually getting out there.
I think another, Karthik from Google, there's an added dimension about whether we're talking about existing applications which have been moved to the cloud for the purposes of IT efficiency and rationalization or burst, etc., or developing net new applications. What we're seeing, though, is that net new applications are being built from the ground up, at least from the customers I talk to be multi-cloud capable. And one of the key things that we need to talk about is what is the granularity at which that packaging is happening. If you're talking about existing IT applications, our customers will move all of their on-prem from VMware hosted infrastructure, which is on-prem, to the cloud, and there the Atom is a virtual machine. But if you're doing net new applications which are being built cloud and mobile friendly, the Atom is a container. And that's much more portable as a package to move between multiple clouds. And that is a package in which the test and dev and production have a greater affinity to behave in exactly the same way. So there's also an additional dimension of what are you doing with your existing application which you want to move or burst to the cloud, if you will, and how are you developing the newer ones that are coming along. Further down the road, there is also this development around serverless computing, which is basically a complex event processing engine fully hosted on top of an infrastructure, but that's much further down the road. But what we're saying is the Atom for existing applications is a VM, and the Atom for newer applications is trying to be a container.
Well, if I can try to bring a slightly different perspective here. One of the things that we have seen is when customers are better prepared, I'm trying to take a slightly different, when we see customers who actually are prepared and have thought out a longer strategy, we see that they're more easier and more able to do and handle interoperability and portability, in the sense that if they have prepared themselves for the fact that in 3 years' time I may have to move, then and the data and the way they have structured and architected their use of the cloud, you see that the ability and the ease of use being far better. Then if they had actually dumped all of it into the cloud and then realized, okay, I need to change my service provider, what do I do now? So I'm just trying to give a slightly different perspective. Obviously, there is a need for interoperability and portability. The challenge which I was mentioning to David before is the challenge is if you commoditize it, what is your competitive advantage? So as a provider, you have the dilemma of how vanilla do you make it, and how better is your vanilla from the others. So that is a challenge every service provider faces, including us. We are a telco, so we're not specialized in cloud itself. It's a part of our portfolio. But that's one of the challenges we face is if we make it all very interoperable, very switchable, and very standardized, where does the differentiation and the competitive advantage come from? So those are a couple of points that I just wanted to throw it into the panel more than anything else.
I think much of the development that you're seeing is actually happening completely in the open source world. I mean, Google is developing Kubernetes in a completely open source manner. Kubernetes is basically a cluster orchestration engine for Docker containers. Netflix, which is the pioneer in all things agile infrastructures in the cloud, the entire Spinnaker project, which basically you define an architecture using Spinnaker primitives and it just materializes it on cloud infrastructure, is also all basically done in open source in an open way and collaborative way. I think where cloud vendors win is behind the best implementation. Right?
Okay, thank you everybody, because as a CDN vendor, we are providing even content delivery and cloud services, even we cooperate with carriers, we cooperate with Cisco and then also Huawei. We have been dying to wait for someone gonna do something like interoperability and portable cloud platform together. It's okay because we can help them. As long as customer is suffering, customer has struggled about their delivery and their application usage, whatever it is, global or local in some countries. The issue is that that agenda, like interoperability, portability of cloud platform and packaging system, is it really important to everywhere? It depends on the region, it depends on the circumstance and environment of the countries. So in Southeast Asia, actually, the Vietnam or some Myanmar or some developing country fastly, I don't think they care about some like standardization and some like the interoperability. No, they have no idea. What they want to get is, oh, this is cheaper, very accessible, and easy to use, and you're gonna support us if something's up. That's all. So we are very happy. Everybody, like even Google's and Cisco, just make it interoperable and then also portable platform. Then we can help them again, much more easier. So this is our service vendors like perspective all the time. So our value is helping them with a millisecond, helping them a 0 byte missing. This is our mission all over the world. Anyway.
I just wanted to add on a few things to that. Okay, so practically right now, just now, Katis mentioned that okay, there are different kind of perspective right now pertaining to application development and how this application is going to be deployed across what kind of cloud platform. Okay, from the vendor perspective of Huawei, okay, predominantly we work with telco. Okay, so telco right now, okay, is also looking into like going through the cloud transformation journey. They want to be the cloud. But the question usually arising, okay, say from telco perspective, they say, okay, I'm going to build this cloud. Okay, now this cloud, what would be the targeting customers or segment that they would like to resell this cloud services to? That's one of the challenge points coming up with. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, that's will go along with what Jerry has mentioned, okay, on the customers across the regions here. Just as an example, for those countries which is less advanced, okay, they are not really care about like, okay, well, I just need a cloud platform. Probably I just need an IaaS, okay, to put my applications on top of it, okay, to leverage on that. But having said that, okay, to take a step further to look into whether should I deploy applications which is pertain to certain VM perspective or dependent on certain VMs, for example, VMwares, could be KVMs and so on, or maybe up to the level of I am, okay, an apps developing company. I more prefer towards, okay, a cloud platform that will support DevOps. This is what Ryan had put up earlier, which is a good session that we for the crowd here about DevOps. Okay, so the considerations of like what kind of cloud platform I need to go into, okay, and look into the perspective of interoperability and portability, okay, it actually varies across different kind of segment of markets.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah. So at this juncture, I also like to ask the audience if you have any questions for our panel here. No? Okay, maybe then I have a question again, just another poll, right? At the audience, how many of you have migrated infrastructures before, cloud or non-cloud, from one platform to another platform? Wow, that's like really fantastic. You know, these are CIOs actually do a lot of projects. Yeah? Anyways, I have my observations, personal observations like this, and I'd like to share with the panel, right? As we, almost everybody here has got that 20 years experience in the industry, right? We see in the traditional infrastructure world, people actually migrating infrastructure every 5 years after they've managed to appreciate the cost of the infrastructure. They call it a technology refresh, right? And of course, part of that technology refresh in the turn of this decade had been a refresh from traditional data centers into the cloud. So we have not really seen much migration from one cloud platform to another cloud platform yet. So while we have a lot of experience as an industry in helping people migrate from one data center infrastructure to another data center, we have a lot of use cases, right, in our pre-sales infrastructure in all your respective organizations, right, whereby you can tell customers, I have a reference site migrating from vendor A's data center architecture to vendor B's data center architecture. Today, what do you think about those people who have already migrated to the cloud, chucked away all their servers, right? Do you think, and what are the options open to CIOs today who have already moved all their infrastructure to the cloud and they decide that the time is right to migrate or to do a CAP refresh to another cloud? And this is where I think, the best practices, the products and services, right, the solutions that your company offer can come into play. So do feel free to share with the audience how this can be done.
That's very fundamental, but very, very risky. So I've never seen like no great CIO shut down the IDC and then migrate all the platform to the cloud system. 100% no, that's not going to happen. The reason is because all the systems should be redundant in some sense, and then also in terms of cost. Actually, cloud platform is not so much cheap if it goes to some scalability. It's not actually. So every global vendors and global service provider always prefer having both. But the issue is the weight, the balance between cloud platform and also legacy IDC, something. And then also in the startup, they always start from cloud platform, cloud services in a small scale. But very ironically, they just come back to the legacy network and legacy operating, all the hardware if they got some volumes. This is my understanding through the CDN and cloud service all over the world.
Great visibility there, buddy.
Yeah, certainly I think we've seen that with customers where we see classic traditional data center deployments evolving towards the cloud, either moving new applications out to the cloud or moving part of the application lifecycle out to the cloud. And then we've also seen startups, especially tech startups, start with cloud and then move and then build their own on-premise data centers. And there's lots of different reasons for that to happen, just like there's lots of different reasons why people go with different service providers, different IT providers, right, so on and so forth. Right? The IT industry has always provided, I'll say, tech consumers all kinds of choices, and I think we're going to see that for quite some time to come. You know, I'm sure the analysts would like to see that continue for quite some time to come. But
I'd actually make the point that there's some really raw, straightforward reasons. Cost. We do a cloud pricing index that identifies relative costs, and I think to Jerry's point, cloud is expensive. I mean, there's the whole concept of buy the base, rent the peak. Cloud's awesome for renting the peak, but there are a lot of good reasons, and there are outfits that have gone all cloud. But there are definitely good reasons why there's pullback and why there's balance between what are good costs and what we refer to as the best execution venues for where you're targeting workloads.
yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to establish is that cost is not the only reason people move to cloud, right? I mean, agility and cost is not the only reason why, is not the only purchasing decision when you go to buy an IT system in general. I'm thinking about a retail customer that we have in the region, a fairly large retail company that's really going through application rationalization, thousands of applications that they feel, from a business perspective, is actually holding them back, all these legacy applications, and also, in a sense, legacy hardware and infrastructure. And so, as part of that rationalization, and I'll just pick up one piece, security. Right? Security, they did a study across their whole infrastructure. They had 5 million firewall rules across their infrastructure, okay, on 60 firewalls. And so as part of looking at that and rationalizing that, they were able to reduce that to 10,000 firewall rules. Still a lot of firewall rules, but still many of the 5 million, so they went from 500 to 1 basically, right? Many of the firewall rules that they had in there were for applications that weren't even being used anymore, right? So that helped them a lot, and now they're able to actually I guess adjust their firewall rules as and when they introduce new applications. When they sunset applications, they were able to remove those firewall rules. So having that agility, not necessarily cloud related per se, but because they're also doing a multi-cloud deployment, both on-premise cloud and public cloud, they wanted to have that to maintain security policy, but also have the ability to rationalize their whole security deployments.
If I can add a point here. And just to continue to what Bernie was saying, it's about the level of sophistication of the customer also. I mean, we have seen customers, we've got banking customers who have a very large IT team in-house, and they're able to manage the cloud deployment far better than some other companies which have less sophistication in their IT team. So that also influences the decision of this 5-year cycle of migrating into the cloud and or switching or changing their cloud service provider. So that for us, we've seen either it's in-house based on the level of sophistication, or they have an IT partner who comes in, a system integrator who comes in and helps with this migration. And to the point that was made earlier, it's about how well is it implemented and how well can they implement. That obviously is a differentiating factor.
If I could just ask one question, what is the value of in-house teams acquiring more and more of these complicated skills in a world where they are not really capable of keeping themselves abreast of all of these threats that come their way? The consumer giants in the IT world already have figured these things out. Just to give you an example, Google has 500 security engineers, each of whom is a PhD in security in multiple different aspects. Wouldn't you just rather take a service which has all of that baked in than try to figure this stuff out on your own? I mean, to me, this notion that as we go forward, that you have to constantly keep thinking about these kind of problems doesn't really make that much sense, because agility is what really matters. I'll give you an example from a retail space. A customer of mine I'm working with, they have 7 years worth of historical CCTV footage from each of the security cameras in all of their retail outlets. This is data that they have to hold for compliance reasons for 7+ years. They just ship that whole data to the cloud. And once that data was in the cloud, they don't care about how it's being managed or maintained. They have an SLA and they have, takes care of that, right? But what is interesting is now that data is up there, and now they're taking that data, applying machine vision to it, and now asking the question, how many of my customers smile when they leave my store? Try and do that with your on-prem infrastructure, or at least plan for that kind of problem. It's not going to happen, at least in my view. Maybe it's a little biased, but this notion that every one of us could acquire enough IT capacity to bring those IT ideas to fruition doesn't hold as in the trends where the world is going, really, to be honest. So maybe it's the time to think about what are the skills that drive more agility, and how do I run an agile platform on which I can run data-driven experiments, and how IT can assist with those experiments is probably the way of the future. Every CIO I've spoken to, every 3 years when they do the IT refresh, saying, how many of these do I just get rid of and move to the cloud, and what are the new experiments that I can run? But one could argue that my view is biased.
Yeah, that's
Go, by the way.
that's the nice thing about the IT industry. I've been in the IT industry for more than 30 years, and we certainly have seen vendors come with all kinds of ideas. And I'm not saying that Google has bad ideas or Google's about to go away, but innovation continues to happen, and part of it is driven by competitive needs, part of it is driven by innovation which brings new ideas to market. And we had a keynote panel this morning around disruption, and so disruption continues to happen in the IT industry also. But the point I'm making is that in order for organizations to take advantage of these new, I'll call them abstractions, because ultimately what we're doing is we're trying to consume technology in order to better our businesses by generating new revenue streams, better our business by reducing, being more efficient, cost efficiency, and or better outcomes by reducing or mitigating risk. And so, to your point with regard to how do you compete, or why not leverage 500 PhD security engineers? Certainly, right? In terms of leveraging that and abstracting above that to say, okay, how can I leverage that in order to to bring that to my business? But the flip side of it is, right, Google doesn't have all the answers, right? Some people might think they do, but Google is one of the providers, and so organizations want the ability to have a multi-cloud solution and be able to benchmark those different clouds, right? Those different cloud solutions for their particular workload or for the particular needs of the service that they're trying to offer. And being able to do that is certainly something that at Cisco we want to offer our customers the ability to make those choices.
Yeah, I mean, for this discussion, actually sparked all my ideas, okay. Back in Huawei as a vendor, usually, okay, we when we approach the customers, whenever we talk to CIO, okay, CIO usually have the KPIs talking about, all right, it's time for me to reduce, okay, the cost, okay, for this year, while trying to face the challenge, okay, of the new business requirements. And moreover, okay, most of the challenge they face day to day across the year will be the business side keep telling them that, hey, right, Google's come up with something new, okay, or someone's come up with something new. Can you just explore whether can we utilize all these technologies, okay, to help drive the business growth? So the CIO is always toy between the ideas of like, should I adopt a new innovation to make business demand? Okay, if I have to adopt that, okay, what would the impact to myself? He needs to calculate the kind of cost to incur, okay, in putting out the new infrastructures. And moreover, okay, traditionally, most of the big business that we approach, okay, they will actually look into, okay, my current data center, my current IT infrastructure footprint is more towards physical side. When things move well, I will don't touch it. if I want to put out some new ideas, I need to work out a cost case, then eventually become a nightmare, okay, to justify the management. Why should I invest in that? That is always the kind of challenge they face. So, to answer David's question,